Hello and welcome to the Clark Blue Podcast post-match reaction, sponsored by NordVPN. If you want the best discount code off your 2-year plan, there's a link in the top line of the description. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by Mat Kendrick for what is probably going to be a discussion about Tyrone Mings' handball, amongst other annoyances, from Club Brugge 1, Aston Villa 0, our first defeat in the Champions League, our third consecutive defeat across all competitions, and generally what feels like Villa are in a bit of a rut, in a bad run of form, draws in the Premier League, defeats in the Premier League, defeats in the Carabao Cup. Matt, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling flatter than Belgium, to be honest. I'm led to believe that Belgium is quite a flat country.
Is it? Okay, good.
Uh, we tend to try and, after setbacks and defeats, we tend to contextualise and look at where we've come from and all this kind of stuff. But I don't mind having a bit of a moan tonight.
Yeah.
You'll get the context in follow-up shows and all that kind of thing. But if you'll forgive me to have a little bit of a moan tonight, because it was very disappointing, wasn't it?
We often say, things like, it's just one bad day at the office. We're still good in the Premier League. Until today it was, well, we're still top of the Champions League. We're still in the top 8. We're still 6th in the Premier League. Take all that, in the first minute, we're done. We're not going to mention that again. These shows tend to be our kind of raw, immediate reaction, and maybe you and I will skim through this tomorrow and go, oh, maybe we were a bit too harsh or whatever. The bigger picture is we're still pretty good. But for now, leave all that at the door. We know we're good, but we can all absolutely be frustrated, disappointed, wound up, whatever adjective you want to go with for tonight. And how, disappointing is probably one word for it. I went into that game thinking, yes, there's no kind of easy game in the Champions League. I wasn't expecting young boys level. Belgium is a better standard than that. The Belgium League is a better standard than that, sorry. But I still thought we'd win. I still thought we'd have enough quality to win. There wasn't really anything stand out in that Bruges side that I was concerned about going into the game. And maybe that's my ignorance of the Belgium League as much as anything. But Villa should still have the quality. I think they referenced a stat a few times about how they've not beaten an English side in 14 attempts or something like that, going back to the late 90s. So English clubs have it pretty good in these games. So I felt Villa would go the same way as well. And that always makes it worse, doesn't it? When you go into it feeling like you're going to win and you don't. It's like, whoa, that was not what I expected. So that doesn't help. But I never expected to see such, I don't know, like lack of energy or effort or quality. It's not the Villa we've come accustomed to in the 2 years of Unai Emery, but it is the Villa that we're coming. If I could speak, this would be great. It's the Villa that we're becoming accustomed to in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Like, this is what Villa are at the moment.
Yeah, I think it was lethargic. It was lackluster. I'm not getting any more L's. It was. We have seen it. We saw it last week, but last week we rested loads of our. I mean, when I say last week, I meant against Crystal Palace. So we've seen a lethargic performance, but back then we had lots of mitigation. We got bigger fish to fry. We got loads of kids on the bench that we didn't expect to have to call upon. Now, it's frustrating when we then go into one of these bigger fish that we've got to fry and we produce something that's got no energy whatsoever. And, listen, I wouldn't like to put my sideline, Sunday league kids football encouragement from the side of the touchline alongside Unai Emery's CV as a coach. But it's urgency. It's the element of surprise. It's doing things quickly occasionally. It's doing things differently occasionally. And I get that we've spoken a lot about trying to control the game and trying to, pass teams into submission sometimes, the way that you move the ball around the pitch. But sometimes when you're 1-0 down, you're feeling sorry for yourself and you probably we've probably still got more points than we thought we'd have in the Champions League at this stage. But that was a game where we could have really cemented that top 8 finish, if you like. So it's that frustrating thing when, even with 5 minutes left, or when the injury time board goes up, you're not trying to do things a little bit differently and a bit quicker. Then you're not looking for a forward pass quicker. You're not, throwing the ball in quicker. It's these kind of things where it's still very, very, I don't know, very, very, what's the word I'm looking for, Dan? Very, very
Don't know.
I don't know. dot, whatever word it is. It's just too slow and too methodical and not varying things up quick enough. And I don't know how heavy the football was tonight because nobody could lift it above waist height when they were trying to deliver it anywhere near the box.
So
Set
frustrating,
piece
isn't it?
deliveries, open play deliveries,
Yeah.
other than probably first half where I think it was, I don't know who whipped the ball in. Who was it who crossed the ball for McGinn's header? Other than that, I don't think there was a decent delivery into the box, to be honest.
Yeah,
And
it's we've spoken before on more tactical episodes than this will be about the style of play that Villa play. It's about, I don't need to labour the point to everybody, but it's about creating these chances that are predictable. You know what you're going to get. You've been through them in training millions of times. If we get into these certain positions, this is what we're going to do, and we have to be patient and controlled and calm to make those opportunities arise in a game. So eventually we're in a position where we've been here before at Bodymore Heath. We know how to score from here. That's why we do it. But when you're losing any scoreline, whether it's 1-0, 3-1, whatever it is, and your centre backs are still going through the motions in the same way. And I get, as we've said, Emery knows much more than we do. I get the idea that, well, if we just keep working at what we know at, maybe a chance will come. As a fan, it's so frustrating to watch the same little passes here and there, the little jogs back, the little looks of, come on, like I need somebody with me. Just fire a ball, do something different, try something different that feels a bit like you care. And I'm not suggesting the Villa players don't, but when you're kind of walking around at 1-0 down with 5 minutes to go away from home in the Champions League, when you could go top again, do something a bit different, try something a bit different, because you need to show that we're chasing something here. Come on, lads, let's do, I don't know, and that probably is a little bit kind of Sunday league to go, just give it a bit more. But you just want to see that, don't you? At least you want to see this kind of urgency that we're under pressure here and we're losing. Like, should we do something about it? Because at the moment it looks like we're just going to, okay, well, it doesn't really matter if we're going to run out of time. We'll still ping our passes and ping our triangles, but ultimately it's not going to go anywhere. It's so annoying.
I think it just becomes from a fan's point of view anyway, and I'm very much on board with Emery, patient Emery ball, knowing that more often than not it will do the trick. And I've probably bemoaned in recent episodes people who have been less patient. When you get fans who are turning up at certain games that get rid of it, that kind of mentality, move it on like that. But I think it's when you see the clock ticking down on the corner of your TV screen, and you're thinking, well, you've actually just manoeuvred that ball via 4 players or the same player twice to get it back into the position where you started from. So you've taken a throw in somewhere halfway inside your own half on the right flank. Ezri Konsa has thrown it back to centre half. It's gone back to Martinez. And eventually, after 30 seconds, 45 seconds, the ball's been manoeuvred back to Ezri Konsa. Now, I get that if it's a stage of a game where the opposition are pressing you higher up the pitch, it's useful to manoeuvre it like that.
Something from there, yeah.
But if you've got a team that's 1-0 up and are so set in there, so regimented in their shape that they're more than happy to let you have the ball there, I'm not digging Ezri Konsa out here, but should that person in the first instance be moving the ball faster at that time? Listen, I'm not saying that should be the case all the time. I just think when the pressure's on, that stoppage time board's gone up and we're chasing a game, I don't know whether we chase it with enough intensity, or we didn't today anyway. Let's put it that way.
But also, I suppose we saw the flip side of that, of going long in the game. Was it against Spurs, or was it a different one of going long to Duran and Watkins, and that also didn't work? So what the solution is, I'm not quite sure. It does feel like in these games specifically, Duran coming on with, I don't know, 30 minutes to go, or whatever it was, to play with Watkins in a game where we're already creating basically nothing, never works. You might have a spark, you might take a shot from distance, and maybe it goes in, and we get something. But the system football, I suppose, that we're playing doesn't complement them playing together in those positions. If we're creating loads of chances and we're just not quite getting the final finish right, chuck Duran in there because maybe he'll be the one to knock it in. When it's already, I saw that, again, people don't like it, I saw the XG was something like 0.05 at one stage for Villa, like created nothing, no chances of note at all. Bringing Duran on that position is not going to change that, because we're not going to get the ball to him anyway, because we haven't for the rest of the game. And I think that adds to the frustration of, okay, we've got options off the bench. But did any of the substitutes today, apart from possibly Pau Torres, do anything to make that game any different? And that's on the players coming on and possibly on Emery for making those changes as well.
Yeah, but then again, I don't blame him for making the changes because the players that are on the pitch to start with didn't do anything.
Catch-22,
So,
isn't it?
at least he's not a manager who sits and waits. He'll make the changes. He'll use the squad at his disposal. It was. I think you're right about the substitutions. I think there was. Buendia, he's still a long way off being up to speed, which again, given what he's coming back from, you can understand. We're so used to Duran coming on and being the saviour that he can't do it all the time, and especially can't do it when he's feeding off scraps. Ramsey came on and then kind of didn't notice him again for a length of time. And it's interesting listening to some of the post-match punditry with friend of the show, Alan Hutton, and friend of his own show, Peter Crouch, chatting about when Torres came on, at least he wasn't, and this is not me digging out Carlos or Mings either, but at least he was front foot. He'll step in, he'll carry the ball, he'll try and look for that ball into the centre forwards or into that central area. But yeah, I think it was just one of those ones where it was a really bad day at the office, which I think we probably could tolerate if it wasn't coming off the back of us blowing the lead against Bournemouth, us tumbling out the League Cup with a whimper, and then us getting a bit of a pasting at Tottenham. So I think if you had one of those in isolation, we've had disappointing setbacks in isolation. We've had some of the Conference League games last year. We always reference the Newcastle battering that we had, but with Emery, we tend to overcome these quickly. Problem you've got now is you go to Anfield on Saturday against the Liverpool team that's flying, then you've got another one of these really irritating international breaks. So if we don't get a result on Saturday, very rare that we've got this kind of cloud or this lull hanging over us. But again, without me being too much bigger picture, because I wanted to use this platform to have a whinge. Yeah, Anyway, go on. You speak.
I think the international break, if we lose at Liverpool, will actually come at a good time. We've said in the last one about how do we handle the international break content? Like, it's difficult to drum up any interest. I could do with a break as well for myself, to be honest. If we lose another, just to kind of forget about it all. I went into tonight. We spoke about this in the Q&A we did on Monday, that a different change of competition, a different change of branding, it all looking different. Maybe that'll kind of reset us and we'll dip ourselves out of this bad form, even if just temporarily for one night, and then it'll be back to misery at Anfield on Saturday night. But even that didn't work, and tonight's been miserable as well in a different competition. So yeah, if we don't get anything against Liverpool, I'd quite like a break, to be honest. Give Emery a bit of time to reset, find something to change when we come back against whoever it is, and make a difference. Because at the moment, it feels like whatever we try just isn't quite working. And again, just from a fan watching the game perspective, watching us do the basics wrong so frequently is really irritating, because we're so used to it in previous years when we've had crap players, but that these players are capable of so much better. To be hitting the first man at every set piece and stuff like that really winds me up. It shouldn't be happening. But it always just feels like we can only do, like, in any one passage of play, we only allow like one good thing. So Rodgers might do a good run, then the pass is crap. Or Pau Torres finds a defence-splitting pass, but Duran's touch is awful. Or Watkins finds good space, but his shot is crap. Like, we can only do one good thing. We can't string enough things together to score a goal, which is a great analysis. But it just feels like we're so like bitter. Like, oh, that's a good little bit. But we've ruined it with something else.
Yeah, I take your point, but that is football.
Yeah, I know, but you want to see a bit more consistency.
If everything that you did in every time that you move the ball.
No, but we've had moments where like 11 players have touched the ball and been involved in the goal, and we string a move together. And now it's like we've got one little good bit and then we blow it.
Yeah, I take your point. Although if you're doing a move, you could do 4 little good bits, and if the fifth bit is a bad bit, you still have the end result of nothing. I mean, I found it interesting there, and I hate the kind of is it a good time or a bad time for an international break? It's a bit falls into the kind of, is it 2 points dropped or a point gain kind of debate, which I get it is part of the kind of parlance of football. But the thing that you said then was it gives him the chance to find out what change he can make. Maybe it gives him the chance to find out what change he doesn't need to make. Maybe these, and I know it's because of the volume of games that we've got and the competitions that we're in, but maybe some things need to stay the same.
Yeah,
A little bit.
fair.
Maybe we're changing too much. You know, Ezri Konsa, is he a right back or is he a centre half? And sometimes when you've got players injured, like we had a long injury list up until a month ago or whatever, these things are necessary. But when you've got more or less a full squad at your disposal, should you be getting at least half of that team, you know, set in positions and playing your way out of it? I don't know. I'm not saying that is the case, but I'm not sure it's necessary looking at tweaking something to get us back on track. It's probably just having trust in a certain set of players and a certain system and seeing if we can kind of play into some rhythm out of that. But again, I'm a dad who just sits and stands and chunters on the side of a girls under 14s match. He's a very highly decorated elite European manager, so bear with me if I bow down to him some more, even though I'm really, really frustrated after tonight.
So your argument is that, like, yes, we've got a lot of depth, that we've got so much kind of versatility in different positions that Ramsey could play at 10 if we needed to, but does off the left. Kamara can step in. McGinn can play central or on the right. But that's almost a bit of a downfall that while we've got such a good squad on paper, there's no such thing as a best 11. But maybe we probably could do with like a best 6 or 7 and then tweak around that.
I think so, although I'm a massive pub bore who reserves the right to completely change. And if he did that and then suddenly ran those players into those 7 players into the ground by March, I'd be the first to say, well, look at this squad. Why doesn't he rotate them more? So, you know, you can't do right for doing wrong sometimes. But yeah, I do think it's become a little bit, your word, bitty and disjointed. And do people need to get a sense of who's playing alongside them a little bit more, like we've had, you know, in previous times under Emery?
Yeah, there's a comment here from Mikey B. And when we read specific comments, this isn't like I disagree with Mikey. Mikey's wrong. Everyone pile on him because he's absolutely right to have his opinion, and he will not be alone. But it's one that I want to just bring up and talk about. He says, we need to temper our expectations a bit, in my opinion. We are an upper mid-table team that punched above our weight last season. We'll be lucky to finish in a European place this season. And Mikey might be absolutely right. Maybe we finish 10th this year and we're mid-table. We don't finish in Europe. I still think we'll finish in the top 5. Maybe another couple of bad results, and I'll be saying top 6. But I still think we'll put a good run together as the season goes on. Is what I'm really hoping for, at least. Emery's record specifically, I don't care about the Gerrard era or anything that came before it. Since Emery's come in terms of points won over his tenure, from if the season started that day till now, unless things have changed in the last couple of weeks, we've been 4th for his whole time in terms of points won over that period. So in Emery's era, we're not an upper mid-table team. We didn't punch above our weight just last season. We've been 4th in his time for 2 straight years now. So we are the 4th best team in England under Unai Emery. But as I said earlier, last year we weren't. The last couple of weeks we haven't been. We've not been anywhere near a top 4 side for probably 6 weeks in terms of the games that we played and the results that we've picked up, and the standard that we expected of Villa last season to come into this, to go again and be the 4th best team again over the course of another 38-game season. We're nowhere near it. The last couple of weeks we have been like a mid-table side that has moments of quality but ultimately kind of shoots himself in the foot too often. But I just think to kind of temper expectations already, 10 games in, and say, let's just settle for mid-table. Like, I don't think we're going to finish in Europe. It's a bit too early to be saying, in my opinion. There's a couple of comments already saying Mike is absolutely right. So there we go.
I think there's a difference between saying there's quite a few positions between 4th and mid-table. I actually think if Villa finish 4th again this season, I possibly think that is slightly punching above our weight. But I think if Villa finish lower than 6th, I think that's us underachieving. So I think it's really kind of demanding to crack into that top four. We did it. You know, we trying to maintain it at the same time as playing top level competition in the Champions League every couple of weeks. I think there's a halfway house between there. I think fourth and above probably is punching above our weight. I think I've just repeated myself what I said.
Are you going to say that sixth are we underachieving?
Some wise man once said that.
I know, I get what you're saying, but the facts are we have been the fourth best team. So I think our level now is I'd expect us to be around that. If we suddenly go and win the title, that would be, for me, that would be punching above where I thought we'd be. But you're absolutely right, to not finish there would be an underachievement. But I just feel for this, and again, maybe Mikey and the others in the comments will come back to this in, I don't know, late January, February, and Villa are ninth and struggling to get back into Europe, and it'd be a real slog to get there, and that may well happen, right? But I just think at the moment we're a little bit too early to over-assess what I think is just a bit of a rut. I think it is a bad 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever it actually is. I say bad, like it's not been bad, but the last couple of weeks specifically, Carabao Cup, Spurs tonight, I don't know, the last minute draw to Bournemouth has really just knocked any kind of sense of positivity or whatever out of a lot of people to go, okay, worst case scenario now. Or earlier in the comments, I didn't want to name them directly, said, how long till Emery's under pressure? And we were a long, long way of things like that, which is the kind of point I'm getting out of, like, it's still just a little period for me of poor football, and I hope that this is something that we look back on in January, February, March as, oh, we were crap around November, but we managed to see ourselves through it, not that this is now the norm.
Yeah, listen, I didn't want to be too reasonable and rational tonight. I wanted to have a bit of a rant based solely on tonight's 90 minutes. But if you look at it, then the last time we had form anything like this under Emery was at the back end of last season when we went 6 games without a win. We were on our feet by then. You know, we got nothing left in the tank, and that's included your 2 Olympiacos defeats that cost us a place in the final. Who else? I think we drew with Chelsea. I've actually written some of this down. We lost to Brighton, drew with Liverpool, which felt like a win the way that we came back into that game, and then we were done by the time we got spanked at Palace on the last day of the season. So I don't think you can compare that. I think the only thing that you can compare it to really is during Emery's first season, when I think we lost to Leicester, to Man City, and to Arsenal 3 games in a row. I think that's the only time we've lost 3 on the spin, basically. So, well, it's not the only time, because I've just said a time at the end of last season. But mid-season, lost 3 on the spin. Now, I'm not saying that history repeats itself, but we came back from that and we had a 10-game unbeaten run with 8 wins and 2 draws in the February of his first season. I'm not saying that we'll suddenly, beat Liverpool at Anfield on Saturday and that'll kickstart an unbeaten run with 8 wins. I'm not suggesting that for 1 minute. But neither is that the most fanciful thing that you've ever heard. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that we don't use this as a springboard, that we don't use the international break to reset and to go back to basics, and for Emery to remind people this is the way we do things. I don't accept standard slipping like that. So if we are looking bigger picture, we've had sticky points before under this manager, and he's quickly found a way to get us out of them. Now, not only do we have Emery's ability to do that, but he does have a lot more options. He does have that way to incentivise players who wouldn't have played that much football to say, okay, this used to be my go-to guy, but nobody's positions are set in stone now. You go and show me why you should be in the team instead. So, I'm more frustrated probably about... I can't take tonight's game in isolation, because I am frustrated about this mini blip or this mini rut, but that doesn't leave me questioning the man who's got us ahead of where we expected to be so much quicker than any other coach in world football would have done.
Yeah, we're going to go round in a circle because if I reply to that point specifically, what you can't legislate for, and people in the comments have said similar, is we could have the most perfect game plan going. That doesn't stop Tyrone Mings picking up the ball in his own penalty area, conceding a penalty, and we lose the game 1-0. Now, the title of this video, I've changed it for the first time ever from post-match reaction Bruges 1, Villa 0 to Tyrone Mings' handball madness cost Villa in the Champions League, just to try something a bit different. Actually, on the second point, one person, I'm not going to change our title for one person if you're listening, said, like, I live in Australia and I try not to like spoil the game so I can watch it, but I get your YouTube notification saying, like, Villa 1, Spurs 4, and it ruins it for me. Algorithm suggests that like having the scoreline is good, but for one night, and I'm going to try something different about the Mings thing. But we're half an hour in, and this is the first time we've mentioned it. Without massively overanalyzing it and asking you a massive question, what went through your mind when you saw that referee blow a whistle for a handball in that situation?
It was one of those ones where you're watching it on the telly and you're watching it with a second screen, so you've got your phone, and when the ball goes out for a goal kick, you look away or chat to my son. So I wasn't paying attention. So if I'd have been the referee, they'd have got away with it.
It was Tyrone Mings.
I was just glancing elsewhere. So when it finally came that I saw the replay on it, it's a really interesting one for me because, again, I've listened to some of the post-match punditry about it. And I think Peter Crouch and Alan Hutton were talking about muscle memory. And because Tyrone Mings hasn't played for so long, if you like, I know he played last week, but because he hasn't played for so long, and when he was playing, was it him who was taking the goal kicks to Martinez rather than Martinez taking it? I don't buy that bit. My theory on it was that for some reason, and I don't know why, for some reason, he had a slight lapse in concentration. I don't think he knew where that ball came from. I think he thought that was like a ball boy throwing it on the pitch, and because it's gone slightly past him, I'm not saying it as an excuse. I'm saying it as what I think happened. Because any other thing, if he thinks Martinez has kicked that ball to him, he's not looking. He's looking away. The ball appears in his line of vision. It's not quite to his feet, but it's close as damn it to his feet. So I think that's happened. It's unforgivable because, at all times, you've got to be super alert. Anywhere on the pitch, you've got to be super alert, but you should be checking your shoulders. You should know your bearings, where you are in relation to everything. I think that's what's happened. I think the ball has taken him by surprise. He's picked it up to say, well, somebody's just thrown that on the pitch. I better throw it back to the place where the goal kick should be taken. None of this is excusing it because that's actually cost us the game tonight. Yeah. I'm not saying that we'd have gone on and won it. I don't think we'd have gone on and lost it, to be honest. I think that's changed the dynamics of the game because it's given them a way of being really disciplined, the way that they've set up and been able to spring us on the counter attack. I mean, I think they were the tempo that they played. They were better than us in that sense anyway, but I don't think they'd have beaten us tonight. So I'm not excusing Tyrone Mings. I'm just trying to somehow get into his head to think, what the hell was he thinking? What the hell was going on?
I agree with everything you're saying, and this is absolutely not going to be a defence of Tyrone Mings because I like him. And I like the journey that he's been on, all that. It's absolutely idiotic what he's done. And again, never played football to any standard, never mind Champions League level. My thing would be, as a defender who is not allowed to touch the ball with my hands, I am never going to pick up a ball, just in case. I'm just not going to touch it. Why we really have to have this thing of, is it a little bit of time wasting possibly, or why Tyrone Mings has got to roll it to Martinez to start the move off anyway? Can it not just be the other way around? Martinez rolls it to Mings, he rolls it back, whatever. Why has Mings got to be the first one to roll a 3-yard pass? Doesn't really matter. First of all, if I'm not sure where it's come from or muscle memory of whatever it is, I would not be thinking as a defender, I can reach down and pick this up with my hands. Why would I? I'm not allowed to use my hands, so I'm not going to. If he just flicks that back to Martinez with his foot, the argument will be, well, Mings has kicked off here now, so now Martinez can be in trouble for a back pass or whatever. But you would then be able to go to a referee and say, well, look, mate, I was just flicking it back to him like I've used my feet. You can't go to the referee and say, oh, I was just flicking it back with my hands, because you're not allowed to use your hands anyway. I think it's absolutely ridiculous what he's done, to be honest. I just can't wrap my head around it at all. I would love, and we're not going to get this from referees, I don't think, although I know there's a lot of people talking about Arsenal Bayern Munich last year. Basically, the same thing happened. And I don't know whether this is from the referee directly, but the quote I've seen is like the referee felt it wasn't in the spirit of the game to give it. Can we not have a bit of common sense that Tyrone Mings clearly, what advantage does Tyrone Mings get from doing that? Nothing. So he's clearly not doing it for any particular reason. Can the ref not just go over and give him a little, rib in the elbows and go, that was a bit daft, but come on, let's just all play out. It's still 0-0. We're not going to allow this to kind of ruin the game. It was stupid, but let's not do anything about it. It's probably never going to happen. But for Tyrone Mings, sorry, I'll let you speak in a sec. Don't even give that referee an opportunity to do anything anyway. Just use your feet, backheel it, do something that is clearly like, I am not playing the ball here. But don't use your hands. Come on.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether I'm with you on that, though, Dan, because he was wrong because the ball was active. The mistake he's made is thinking the ball's not active. I think I'm not.
Kick it then.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm not asking anybody to do this, but I reckon you could trawl through hundreds of hours of footage of a ball being thrown on by a ball boy or by thrown back to the stands, and somebody, a defender standing on the pitch, has caught it, has picked it up, has done that. So it's easy for us to say this now, but I reckon if you're a professional footballer, what should he do? Tie his hands behind his back at all times? I don't think the fact that he's handled the ball, of course it's an issue, but I don't think that's what's caused it. It's the lapse in concentration that's caused it, rather than he's thinking that a defender can handle a ball when the ball is dead. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, yeah. But why take... Oh, yeah, I know.
Why take the risk? Because he's taken the risk since he was playing football at the age of 7. Yeah. And I think the couple of interesting things. You mentioned the Bayern Munich thing with David Raya and I think it was Gabriel, wasn't it? Gabriel. That quote came from Thomas Tuchel, I think, who said, "This is what the referees told me." And I think Tuchel said something like, the referee told me that I'm not going to penalise something for a kid's mistake in knockout stages of the Champions League. Who knows whether the fallout from that has thought, maybe there's a directive amongst referees that says,
if that random thing ever happens again, we have to punish it next time.
Well, you never know, though, do you?
Maybe,
It's one random thing, but it's happened in a really high-profile game. So he might have thought, well, Christ, he might have seen that interview with Tuchel and thought, Christ, if that ever happens to me, I'm going to go straight down the... You don't know. The referee, I think common sense should have prevailed, but I'm an Aston Villa fan. So if it had gone in the other end, I'd have been laughing my head off.
Yeah,
so the referee,
fandom, isn't it?
To the letter of the law, the referee has done the right thing. So you blame Tyrone Mings more than you blame the referee. But it's every now and then.
Now, sorry, do you know, like when we had like VAR issues when it first, as if we're not having them anymore. When VAR first came in, and it was like, we heard from Howard Webb, etc., about like the process will change. Like we will be more communicative. We will, stop calling each other nicknames or whatever. Like we'll make it more professional. Do you think now this will instill like a thing at Villa where like Martinez, whenever he plays out a goal kick, he shouts like, "It's in play," some kind of form of, we are not going to allow this to happen again. I'm going to shout like live or go or something to say like, don't handball it next time, you clown.
I wouldn't have thought so. I'd have thought it would have been a big enough, stark enough reminder to people anyway, to be honest. It's interesting. I think McGinn was going over to say to the referee, "Well, you never blew your whistle." I don't know how often a referee blows a whistle to signal a goal kick anyway. I think we looking at excuses if we try and put it on the referee. It was our player.
It's on Mings, it's on Mings. I'm not excusing the fact that it's anyone else's fault. It's just, it's really frustrating. I've seen Emery say something like it was a weird moment, or that's football, or something like that. I'm not expecting him to come out and fire Mings under the bus. I'll be interested to see if Mings makes any comment on it himself. Like I can imagine him doing a tweet, "Sorry to let the fans down, just a moment of madness." I can't imagine him going, "Oh, I thought it was a ball boy." He's not going to give us an actual reason if there is one. But this is the highest level of football that we're talking about. Can you have a moment of madness in that instance? Like, if it was that he brought the last man down in a rash challenge and gave away a penalty that way. Like, it's still the same end result, but because it's such a silly, trivial kid's mistake, as you said before, it just heightens the feeling of like, what have I just seen? Like, that's one of the most bizarre handball situations I've ever seen. And it would have been lovely for Martinez to save it, who doesn't have a brilliant penalty record when it's not inside a shootout for Villa, at least anyway. But yeah, just really frustrating, and compounds it by that was the winning goal. If we'd lost 3-0, again, it started there, but the fact that it's only 1-0 and it's that goal just makes it all the more worse.
Yeah, should have put Mings in goal to save it, shouldn't they?
Your mistake, you go and goal.
Yeah. Oh God, what a farce! It reminded me. I don't want to add to the misery while we're all down. It was one of those. It was a bit like an Enkelman moment.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Obviously, it wasn't in a derby against our rivals who we hadn't played in the league for 16 years or whatever it was when Enkelman's dropped that one. But it was that like a double take moment, wasn't it? And then a treble take, and like, what's gone on? And again, you'd expect Villa and Unai Emery's Villa to not brush it off straight away, because you're obviously in a state of shock. A bit of PTSD kicks in for 5 minutes, but you'd have thought they'd have said, well, actually, we're better than this. We're going to respond to this. We're going to up the tempo. Not only are we going to cancel that goal out within the next 15 minutes, we're going to go on and win this game, so that stupid mistake from one of our colleagues is going to be forgotten. It's going to be a footnote. Yeah. But the fact that they went into the shells even more and weren't able to find an answer and find a response made it even more disappointing. So as much as Mings in that moment is the thing that has really undermined our efforts, he's not alone in being to blame for tonight's match, because there was the poor performances scattered throughout the team tonight.
The final thing I want to ask you about before we wrap up, we've done enough misery for one night, I think. But just in terms of Villa's goals conceded overall, and maybe there's some recency bias in this, but there was a comment earlier from Steve, I think it was, saying like, the team that loves gifting goals. When was the last time we conceded a goal where you felt that was a good bit of play by the opposition, like we've been done there? And there will be obviously some, and there was some argument to say that every goal you concede is a mistake somewhere at some tactical level. Something went wrong for a goal to happen for every team ever. But in terms of like the bad ones, Pau Torres playing it out against Spurs and it coming instantly back and we concede. What happened tonight? Matty Cash giving away a penalty. Whatever it is, we seem to be the cause of most of the goals that we concede, rather than, I mean, we might see a couple at Anfield on Saturday night, to be honest, of like, wow, that was pretty good. But generally, it feels like whatever we do, whatever goal we concede, for somewhere along the line, it was our fault. It was Carlos doing something silly. It was Mings doing something. You know what I mean? It's so frustrating.
Yeah, and again, most goals are conceded because something's not quite right, because somebody's lost a man. I know you're saying over and above that.
Like the clanger ones, like
almost
straight to them, and
how often are we getting the kind of pre-assist on the goals that we concede?
Yeah, even the Bournemouth one, the last minute, we don't mark the header very well, but we give away a stupid free kick as well. Like, there's always something in there that's like, that was on us there.
Yeah, well, these are the things that God, massive cliche, but you can't get away with, can you? You can't get away with it at many levels, but you certainly can't get away with it at this level. I do think, back to the international break thing and the timing of it, I do think it just needs a very kind of simple back to basics approach. This is what we are. This is what we do. This is what we do in these situations. I think some of that's been lost in all the kind of chaos of all the changes and all the trying to balance a squad so that we can cope on different fronts. It just needs simplifying and starting again, really.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to wrap up there. We've done 40 minutes, which is longer than I thought we'd get to be perfectly honest. We've had our moan. I think we just have to put it to bed. To be honest, we will use Tyrone Mings in matches again this season. We will need him at times. We will need him to play well for us. There's a lot of kind of comments along the theme of like, oh, he should never play football for us again and all that kind of stuff, which is to the extreme end of the, I'm going to be critical here, absolutely stupid what he's done. But we're going to need him. We'll need this group of players to win games for us. You can never be too like I say, going to that degree. We've had our moment, we put it behind us, we go into Liverpool. I think most people expect us to lose at the weekend and this mini rut to continue, and then we've got an international break to dwell on it. If we do go on to get something, obviously it'll be great, and I don't want to go into that game expecting to lose, but I don't know whether Emery can fix what is going wrong at the moment in the next couple of nights or the next couple of days. After the international break, I am going to be kind of like, okay, kind of put everything so far under a line, if you like, from now on. Are we going to see changes of us being a bit more hard to beat? Are we going to stop seeing so many silly mistakes? Are we going to see Villa be a bit more clinical in the final third and play on instinct a little bit and actually take some shots at goal? And if we're not seeing signs of change over a longer term, then I think you can start asking questions about certain individuals or whatever it might be. But I think as of right now, it is. And again, I hope I'm not going to be looking stupid come the end of the season, and maybe we're right. I hope this is just a little period of difficulty that we have to get through, and we will come out on the other side of it better for it, rather than this being the beginning of the end, which I don't think it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't write us off on Saturday at Liverpool. There was a meltdown after we drew at Ipswich, and then 3 days later we beat Bayern Munich. So do you know what I mean? So I think we're getting ahead of ourselves if we think that this is the beginning of the demise. I don't think it is at all. Just a couple of things that I wanted to mention, just random things. Did you see that Costa and Duran never had their sponsors because of the old betting rules?
Yeah, is that because they're under 21?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's the Belgian age of consent for betting is 21 or whatever. I think it's weird that people on the same team don't have the same kit, in effect.
Can't sponsor the club, can't advertise the club sponsor that is all like legitimate and above board just because of their age. Like, it kind of proves the point of maybe you shouldn't have these sponsors in football at all, which is obviously on its way at some point. But yeah, I spotted it with Duran first, and I didn't notice it when he actually came on. Again, probably I had my head in my phone myself at that point. But I wondered whether he'd had a head injury or something and he'd changed his shirt, and the one that they changed to was a sponsorless one. And then literally like a couple of minutes later, Costa came off the bench and he also didn't have his on. And I was like, okay, must be an age thing for gambling. What the cut-off point is, I was trying to work it out, like, is it under 25 or... Because I think Matson's probably 23. And I was trying to work it out in my head. I'm guessing it's 21.
Yeah, just found it a bit random. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was I had grudging admiration for the pettiness and commitment of the Bruges fans. Every single time Tielemans, they didn't get bored of booing him all the way through the match. And I thought, fair play to you. That is proper dedication to your duty. And the only other thing, this is really random, but the fella who on TNT who interviews the manager and the players at the end, I think he's a guy called J.D. Dyer. He sounds just like Darren Bent.
Does
he? Because I used to interview Bent when I was the Villa reporter, and I heard him a couple of weeks ago, this guy, and I was thinking, bloody hell, typical kind of, jobs for the boys, all the ex-pros. He's already got his gig on Talk Sport, and now he's the roving reporter. And then I listened again, and I thought, that's Darren Bent, that is. But then I think they went back to the studio and they said, thanks, JD or something. But yeah, so that's as interesting as my insight gets tonight, anyway. So
no, well, I like him. He's good. I'll listen out with my eyes closed next time he's on and see if I can hear Darren Bennett instead. I've never thought about it, but yeah, I'll take your word for it.
You're not having a NordVPN man of the match tonight, or two if I'm really, really desperate.
So we play the clip just because we've got it?
Yeah, play it. Give Nord a plug.
Go on then.
Sponsored by NordVPN, it's the Man of the Match award, and I will accept 2 choices if you cannot narrow it down to 1.
I think we should be the men of the match.
I don't think it's ever going to get that bad, Dan, to be honest. I'm going to give it Martinez because he made a couple of good saves in the first half. That was that one where he just got a fingertip onto the post and then he followed up. He saved the follow-up, didn't he? I think, most of the outfield players just flattered to deceive for most of the game. So, yeah, how about you?
I've not even got one. I wasn't going to do it. I can't believe we're 45 minutes into this and now we're talking about man of the match in a game we've just lost 1-0. I don't have one. I thought they were all rubbish, to be honest. And that's probably me being too critical. But yeah, no standouts for me whatsoever. I don't think anyone did anything of any quality, which is why we've lost the game. And on that note, that's the end of this post-match show. Mat Kendrick, thank you for joining me as always. And thank you to the 350 people who are still watching at this time on a Wednesday evening and all those that click through onto this link throughout the show as well. If you're watching on catch up, scroll down to the YouTube comments and share your thoughts as well. If you listen on podcast feeds, you can share a iTunes review, an Apple Podcast review, I should say. And on Spotify, you can now leave comments as well. So you can get involved in the conversation there as well. We'll be back on Friday for our Liverpool preview and Saturday night very late for the post-match show for Liverpool as well. All right. Thanks everyone for watching or listening to this episode of Claret and Blue, and we'll see you Friday. Bye-bye. I didn't do the outro because you say something and I'd cut you off, and now I haven't done it.
We're still going.
Still going, yeah. Do you want to say bye so then I can do it?
Up the Villa.